too is like think about this angle because maybe this kind of segues to the next point unless you have something else. But the the making the decision part now, and he doesn't have his parents to help, right? I'm sure he has some guidance, whatever. But how are you deciding now? You know that it's likely down the line you'll get Division One scholarship, and now you have the Spitfires giving you another option here, and then having to navigate that whole situation without really that super close guidance of having your parents like to help you talk or to help talk you through it and that kind of stuff. Like that's difficult.
It becomes very real when it becomes real. Because people like, okay, so this is what we're going to talk about that a little bit. How we have a few guys in that situation where the NCAA and the OHL are right there, and they're actually making decisions, and they're both are saying, "I'll give you this, I'll give you this." Like, so one good thing is you have options, but the other thing is like you're almost like a mosquito at a nudist colony, right? You're so excited, but where do I start?
Yeah.
Right. So you got two great things. So someone listening to this that isn't in the fight would, you're gonna get two different things. Well, you're an idiot if you don't go to college, right? Because that's a simple decision. You get your school paid for. And then you can say, well, you're an idiot not to take the OHL right now or the CHL right now because you get your school paid for anyways, and it's the fastest way to the NHL and all that stuff. So it seems really simple. But when you're actually the dog in the fight, it's like, oh my God, because here's one thing. If you get offered, if your dream was to play in the OHL and maybe got drafted late and then a team came up to you and is offering you a scholarship, and then the team that drafted you at the same time is offering you one, it's like, okay, I've always wanted to play here, but these guys were first. They showed me love first, right? So do you go back to this place because you know where your heart is? And anyways, that's that. I've kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, that's okay. I want to kind of get into that unless you had something else you wanted to.
No, not really.
Start talking about. So I don't know how you want to do the. Do you want to explain the situation a little bit more before we go into the details of it, or do you want to just start outlining kind of the decision making process, maybe some of the things that you should be thinking about? Yeah, you want to take it more that kind of way.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to be careful about is not to say names, and we won't do that. But I don't want to make the names obvious. But as I'm thinking about it, it's fine. Yeah, we'll talk about the situation.
So do you want me to do it, or do you want?
You can start.
So more or less, what happened is we have a couple guys that have the opportunity to go to.
They have them.
Yeah, they have. They can go if they want. Like that's the thing. Yeah, so they have the scholarship ready to go, and now they're getting another offer from an OHL team to basically more or less the same thing, except you get this now.
Yeah,
it's kind of the deal. So they're now faced with the decision of, do we go this way and take the thing that we said we were going to take to start? A little bit more of a long road going the Division One route if you're playing hockey in Canada, because you have to delay a few years of junior before you get to go finish high school, that kind of thing. Or you want to have the candy now, and that's kind of without leading the conversation. That's kind of my own spin on what the basic decision ends up being, because they're two great options, and there's a lot of layers to peel back on how you make a decision like that.
Yeah,
but at the base level in general, to me, it's just like, do you want the candy now or should you have the candy later? Yeah. And that's kind of trying to decide, is the delayed gratification actually better in this situation? Because delayed gratification isn't always the best thing, right? This is another common, a common thing that people talk about is, like people have no patience. They don't want to wait for the thing that, and we've said it in our thing, like this is the era of everybody wants it now and I want it now and whatever. But sometimes like the context actually matters, and sometimes having the thing now is actually the better choice.
Can be.
It's not just a given that delayed gratification is always better. It depends on what the situation is. So for these kids, it's like, is the delayed gratification actually better, where you get the ego pat of, now I'm playing at the super high level that everyone really thinks is super prestigious, or is it better to just jump the ship and do it now? And what is actually better for yourself as a hockey player in terms of your development and all that kind of stuff. And there's a whole bunch of points that we can go into on that, but is that enough for you to start chewing on?
Yeah, 100%. So, but so that's the question, right? What do I do? So obviously it's going to be different for everybody, because you have to know who you are, where you are in the development curve. Is your decision strictly hockey, or is it more education? And to back up a little bit, is American like U.S. listeners will say, "What are you guys talking about?" In a lot of people say that. What are you talking about? What are you waiting for? Because in the U.S., it's just the process, right? You go to high school and then maybe you're fortunate enough to play on the U17, U18 National Development Program, or but it's North American League or the USHL, and that process high school. Really, they don't start thinking about college. Like they go through that junior A process in the U.S. And then it's college. That's what they think about. So a lot of them don't even know why. Why would anyone want to go to the Guelph Storm? Like, what is that? Whereas in Canada, that process is the OHL or the CHL is right in front of our face. That's what we grow up with, and that decision is like what we grow up wanting to do. Like, there's not a lot of kids that you see at 12 years old or 11 years old. If you ask them where they want to play in the next few years, like what's your dream? They want to play for their close or local CHL team. That's what they see, not the University of Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever. So there's just a different view. Yeah. And then the people overseas, there's club teams and stuff, so it's different, right? We're just talking because we're in Canada. This is what we're talking about.
Right. So just let me hop in here for a second, because we did an episode on this before. Kind of I think we called it NCAA versus the OHL, and I want to make sure we don't do exactly the same thing that we did before, because that'd be a good kind of episode to go back and listen to before this. But I think what I want to focus on this a little bit more. I want to touch on the kind of the stuff we touched on in that episode too, but after that, I kind of want to pull back and get into like the more personal elements of the decision making, instead of like just kind of the generic of how to weigh your options. So if we want to let's start with that, like kind of weighing your options. Like, which type of player or which type of person or whatever is better suited for NCAA versus the OHL? We'll kind of run through that like kind of quick, and then let's get into like the more personal stuff that comes into the decision making process after that. If that makes sense, that work for you?
So when I look at a player, if you look at a player that is physically more mature, maybe bigger, maybe stronger at a younger age, who mentally is a little bit stronger or ahead of the curve a little bit, that's probably an indicator that you're probably more ready for the OHL, especially if we call them early bloomers. Then for sure the CHL is where you want to go. Not for sure, but I would weigh more on that. If you grow up, if your schooling is not, you're not in love with school, you don't like the college life, which that was me. That was like, that turned me off. If you want to play more games, then the major junior CHL is probably your way. If you're a later bloomer, and late bloomer, just I don't mean as a hockey, well, kind of as a hockey player, but as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, if you're physically blooming a little bit late, then you got a lot of room to grow. Maybe you're a little bit immature, and I don't mean that like you play with dolls and stuff. I just mean that you're not comfortable talking to adults, or stuff like that. Just in your conversations, you can tell if your kid's ahead of the game maturity wise or not. So if you're a little bit not slower but not ahead of the game, then you need time to develop in all different areas of your life, then I would say that for sure you would want to look at the NCAA route if you have some talent, or if you need time to grow. That's definitely the way I would look at it. Because like the reality is that if you go to the OHL at 18, which is fine because you still get 18, 19, 21 as an overage if you want, still 3 really good years of junior. That doesn't mean that you can't make it. It's just you lose 1 or 2 years of that development in that big, And if I had that choice, I probably would go to college.
Yeah.
If I could only make it at that point.